Alex Chen pressed her face against the transport window as the TriStar Academy came into view. The massive structure floated in space like a giant metal flower, its 3 wings extending from a central hub. Each wing belonged to a different alien species, and Alex was about to become the first human to study there. Her stomach twisted with nerves as the transport docked. The doors opened with a soft hiss, and Alex stepped into a world unlike anything on Earth. The corridor stretched ahead with walls that seemed to shimmer and change color. Alien students walked past in small groups, their conversations creating a mix of sounds she had never heard before. A tall, graceful figure approached her. The being looked almost like living crystal, with pale blue skin that caught the light. "You must be the human student." "I am Instructor Lyra of the Rilani. Welcome to our academy." Alex nodded politely. "Thank you for having me. I'm Alex." Lyra's expression was hard to read, but Alex caught something that might have been doubt in her crystalline eyes. "Follow me. I will show you to your quarters and explain the rules." As they walked, Lyra pointed to different areas. "The Blue Wing houses Rilani students. We study energy manipulation and cosmic sciences. The Red Wing belongs to the Corvin, who focus on engineering and technology. The Green Wing is for the Nithek, masters of tactical thinking and group coordination." They passed a group of 4-armed beings working on some kind of mechanical device. Their thick gray skin was covered in geometric patterns, and their hands moved with incredible precision. "Those are Corvin," Lyra explained. "They build most of the technology used in this sector of the galaxy." Further down the hall, Alex saw insect-like creatures moving in perfect formation. They communicated through rapid clicking sounds and seemed to know what each other was thinking. "The Nithek," Lyra said. "They work as one mind in many bodies." Alex felt very small and very human. These species had mastered forces and technologies that Earth was only beginning to understand. What could she possibly offer here? Her quarters were simple but comfortable. The walls displayed a view of space that made her feel both amazed and homesick. Lyra handed her a device that looked like a small glowing tablet. "This will translate languages and provide information about Academy protocols. Your first class begins tomorrow. Try not to fall behind." Lyra paused at the door. "The other instructors were not sure about including a human in our program. Your species has only recently achieved basic space travel. Do not give them reason to doubt this decision." After Lyra left, Alex sat on her bed and stared out at the stars. Back on Earth, she had been one of the top students in her engineering program. Here she felt like a child who had wandered into a university lecture. The next morning, Alex found her way to applied physics with Professor Karn, a Corvin, whose 4 arms moved independently as he worked on 3 different equations at once. The other students took notes on devices that projected information directly into their field of vision. Alex pulled out an old-fashioned notebook and pen. Several students stared at her primitive tools with what might have been amusement or pity. "Today we will solve a power distribution problem," Professor Karn announced. His voice was deep and mechanical. "You have 30 minutes to design a system that can provide energy to a space station during a solar storm." The Rilani students immediately began manipulating holographic displays, bending light and energy with their minds. The Corvin worked on complex mechanical solutions with incredible speed. The Nithek formed small groups and shared information through rapid clicking. Alex stared at the problem on her tablet. The traditional approaches would work, but they all had weaknesses. Solar storms were unpredictable. What if the main systems failed? She started sketching in her notebook. Instead of one complex system, what about multiple simple ones? Backup systems for the backup systems. It was messier than the elegant solutions the other students were creating, but it might actually work better. Time ran out before she finished her calculations. Professor Karn examined each solution, his mechanical voice commenting on strengths and weaknesses. When he reached Alex, he paused. "Interesting approach," he said finally. "Inefficient and inelegant, but practical. In a real emergency, this might be the only design that continues to function." A Rilani student named Vera spoke up. "But it's so crude. Why use 12 simple systems when one advanced system can do the same job?" Alex found her voice. "Because advanced systems have more ways to break. If one part of my design fails, 11 others keep working. If one part of your design fails, the whole thing stops." The classroom fell silent. Professor Karn's forearms stopped moving. "Explain further." Alex's heart pounded, but she continued. "On Earth we have a saying. Keep it simple. The best engineering isn't always the most impressive. It's the most reliable. Professor Karn studied her design more carefully. You have created 17 different failure points, but also 17 different recovery paths. This is unexpected thinking. After class, Alex walked alone through the corridors. She had survived her first day, but she still felt out of place. As she passed a group of Nithek students, she heard their rapid clicking. Her translator device picked up fragments of their conversation. Primitive approach, but effective. Unpredictable logic. At least they were talking about her, even if she wasn't sure it was positive. In the dining hall, Alex sat by herself with a meal that had been specially prepared for human dietary needs. It tasted like chicken, but she wasn't sure she wanted to know what it actually was. A four-armed figure approached her table. It was Grix, one of the Corvin from her physics class. "May I sit?" Grix asked. Alex nodded, surprised. "I have been thinking about your solution," Grix said, settling his heavy frame into the chair. "It reminded me of something my grandfather used to say. He was an engineer on the old mining ships. He said the best tools were the ones that still worked when everything else broke." Alex smiled. "That sounds like something my dad would say. He fixes cars for a living." "Cars?" "Ground vehicles. Pretty basic technology, but they need to work every day in all kinds of weather." Grix made a sound that might have been laughter. Perhaps there is wisdom in basic technology. As Alex finished her meal, she noticed other students watching her. Some looked curious, others skeptical. But for the first time since arriving, she didn't feel completely alone. That night, she wrote in her journal, "Day 1 survived. They think I'm primitive, and maybe I am. But primitive doesn't mean wrong. Maybe that's what I'm here to show them." Outside her window, the stars continued their ancient dance, indifferent to the small human who was about to change everything. 3 weeks into her stay at the academy, Alex discovered she was terrible at meditation. The Rilani instructor, Zara, floated cross-legged above her cushion while streams of pure energy danced between her fingers. Around the room, other students sat in perfect stillness, their minds reaching out to touch the cosmic forces that powered the stars. Alex shifted uncomfortably on her cushion for the 100th time. Her back ached, her legs were falling asleep, and instead of feeling cosmic energy, she mostly felt the need to use the bathroom. "Focus on the void between thoughts," Zara's voice whispered through the chamber. "Let your mind become empty." Alex tried, but her human brain refused to cooperate. Instead of emptiness, her thoughts bounced around like rubber balls. She wondered what her parents were doing back on Earth. She thought about the physics homework she hadn't finished. She noticed that the air recycling system in this room had a slight whistle that the alien students probably couldn't hear. When the session ended, Alex was the first to stand up. Her legs protested as circulation returned. Zara floated down to ground level with disapproval radiating from her crystalline features. "Your mind is chaos," Zara said. "How do you expect to learn energy manipulation if you cannot achieve basic mental discipline?" Alex wanted to point out that humans had managed to split atoms and travel to other planets without floating meditation, but she kept quiet. Making enemies wouldn't help her situation. After class, she wandered through the academy's corridors, feeling frustrated and homesick. She had made some progress in her other subjects, but the Rilani energy courses were a complete disaster. Maybe she really didn't belong here. Her wandering took her to a section of the academy she had never seen before. The corridors here were different, with thick metal walls instead of the elegant crystal and polymer construction of the main campus. Warning symbols covered the walls in 3 different alien languages. Alex pulled out her translator device. "Authorized personnel only. Danger, biological containment. Emergency protocols in effect." Her curiosity overcame her common sense. She followed the corridor deeper into the restricted area. The walls here were even thicker, and she could hear a faint humming sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Through a reinforced window, she glimpsed something that made her stop dead in her tracks. Inside a massive chamber, behind walls of energy barriers and physical restraints, something moved in the shadows. It was huge, easily twice the size of a human, with a shape that seemed to shift and flow like liquid darkness. Alex pressed closer to the window. 2 eyes opened in the darkness, glowing with an intelligence that was clearly not animal. The creature moved to the barrier and seemed to study her with the same intensity that she was studying it. "You should not be here." Alex spun around to find Professor Karn standing behind her, All four arms crossed in what was clearly disapproval. "I'm sorry, I got lost and—" "No, you did not get lost." Karn's mechanical voice carried a note of resignation. "Humans are naturally curious. This is both your strength and your weakness." Alex looked back at the creature in the containment cell. "What is that thing?" Karn moved to stand beside her at the window. "That is a shadow maw, one of the most dangerous predators in known space. They come from the rim worlds where evolution created perfect killing machines." The creature in the cell moved closer to the barrier. Alex could see more of its form now. It had a vaguely feline shape, but its proportions were wrong for any Earth animal. Its limbs were too long, its head too large, and its entire body seemed to be made of living shadow that constantly shifted and flowed. "Why is it here?" Alex asked. Karn was quiet for a long moment. "The three species that founded this academy have different philosophies about dangerous creatures. The Rilani believe all life should be studied and understood. The Nithek see everything as a potential threat to be analyzed. The Corvin think that by understanding predators we can build better defenses. So you captured it? We found it injured on an abandoned research station. It should have died, but our medical team saved its life. Now it serves as a living laboratory for understanding apex predators." Alex watched the creature pace back and forth in its cell. Something about its movement reminded her of the tigers she had seen at zoos back on Earth. The same restless energy, the same intelligence burning behind the eyes. "Has anyone tried to communicate with it?" Karn's mechanical voice carried surprise. "Communicate? It is a predator. What would be the point?" "Those eyes," Alex said. "That's not animal intelligence. That's someone thinking." The shadow maw seemed to respond to her voice. It stopped pacing and looked directly at her through the reinforced barrier. For a moment, Alex felt a connection that had nothing to do with words or language. Here was another being trapped far from home, surrounded by creatures who didn't understand it. "You must not come here again," Karn said firmly. "The containment protocols exist for good reasons. A single shadow maw destroyed an entire mining colony before it was captured. 300 beings died." As they walked back toward the main academy, Alex couldn't stop thinking about what she had seen. The creature was dangerous, that much was clear. But it was also intelligent and possibly as frustrated and lonely as she was. That night, she researched everything she could find about shadow maws. The galactic databases were full of horror stories. Ships found drifting empty in space with no trace of their crews. Research stations gone silent overnight. Military units that had vanished without sending a single distress signal. But between the fear and folklore, Alex found hints of something else. Shadow maws were never found in groups. They didn't seem to compete with each other for territory. Some researchers speculated that they might be more like Earth's big cats than pack hunters like wolves. Big cats that protected their families. Alex stared at her notes until her eyes grew tired. Tomorrow she would have to face another day of classes where she felt inadequate and out of place. But tonight she couldn't stop thinking about glowing eyes in the darkness and the intelligence she had seen behind them. In the containment facility far below, the shadow maw had stopped its restless pacing. It lay in the center of its cell, but its eyes remained open, staring at the ceiling as if it could see through the metal and stone to the stars beyond. Neither human nor alien predator slept well that night. Alex woke up to the sound of sirens. The emergency lights in her room flashed red and blue in a pattern that made her eyes hurt. Her translator device was buzzing frantically with automated announcements in 3 alien languages. Through her window, she could see other students looking out of their rooms with expressions of confusion and fear. She grabbed her clothes and ran into the hallway. Grix was there, his forearms gesturing wildly as he tried to access an emergency terminal. "What's happening?" Alex shouted over the noise. "Stellar storm," Grix replied, his mechanical voice tight with worry. "Massive electromagnetic pulse hit the academy. Multiple system failures across all sectors." Down the hall, Vera floated above the floor, her crystalline skin flickering with nervous energy. A group of Nithek students moved in perfect formation toward the emergency assembly points, their clicking communication almost too rapid for Alex's translator to follow. Alex felt the floor vibrate under her feet. That wasn't normal. The Academy's artificial gravity was usually rock steady, but now it seemed to pulse and fluctuate like a heartbeat. "Where are we supposed to go?" she asked. Grix pointed down the corridor. "Emergency assembly in the main auditorium. All students must report for safety verification." They joined the stream of students flowing through the corridors. The emergency lighting cast weird shadows on the walls, making familiar spaces look alien and threatening. Alex noticed that some of the doors they passed were sealed with red energy barriers. Containment protocols activated. The mechanical announcement repeated. All students remain in designated safe areas. Containment protocols. Alex's blood ran cold as she remembered the creature in the lower levels. If the stellar storm had caused system failures throughout the academy, the auditorium was chaos. Hundreds of students from 3 species clustered together in nervous groups. Instructors moved between them, trying to maintain order while checking names against electronic lists. Professor Karn stood near the main entrance using all 4 arms to coordinate rescue efforts on multiple communication devices. Alex found herself standing next to a group of Nithek students. Their rapid clicking had slowed to an anxious rhythm that her translator picked up as fragments, power grid unstable, backup systems, failing. Something wrong in lower levels? What's wrong in the lower levels? Alex asked. One of the Nithek, a female named Tix, turned her compound eyes toward Alex. Containment breach alerts.
Security team's not responding.
Could be communication failure, could be worse. Alex's stomach dropped. She thought about the intelligent eyes of the Shadow Maw, the creature that had destroyed entire colonies. If it was loose in the academy, Instructor Lyra appeared on the main platform, her crystalline form glowing with urgency. Attention all students. Due to system failures, we are implementing emergency lockdown procedures. You will remain in this auditorium until transport ships arrive to evacuate you to safe harbors. A Corvin student raised 2 of his arms. What about the research facilities? The equipment in my lab is worth more than most planets. All non-essential areas are sealed, Lyra replied. Nothing is more important than your safety. Alex looked around the auditorium. It was a large space, but it only had 2 exits. If something dangerous got inside, they would be trapped like animals in a cage. The alien students seemed content to wait for rescue, trusting in their protocols and procedures. But Alex had grown up on stories of the Titanic and the Hindenburg. Sometimes the procedures failed. Sometimes the unthinkable happened. She slipped away from the group and moved toward one of the side exits. A Rilani guard stood there, his hand resting on some kind of energy weapon. Student, return to the designated area, he commanded. I need to use the bathroom, Alex lied. It's a human biological requirement. The guard looked uncomfortable. Alien biology was apparently not covered in his training. He pointed down a side corridor. There is a facility 50 meters that way. Return immediately. Alex nodded and walked in the direction he had indicated. As soon as she was out of sight, she took a different route toward the lower levels. The corridors were eerily quiet now. The emergency lighting cast long shadows, and the normal hum of the academy systems was replaced by occasional groans and clicks as damaged equipment tried to function. She reached the restricted area where she had seen the Shadow Maw. The warning symbols on the walls were now flashing red, and several of the security doors stood wide open. Emergency power had sealed the main containment area, but the outer barriers had failed. Through a broken section of wall, she could see into one of the laboratory spaces. Equipment lay scattered across the floor and long claw marks gouged the metal walls. In the center of the destruction, she found something that made her heart stop. It was small, about the size of a house cat, with the same shifting shadow-like appearance as the adult Shadow Maw. But this one wasn't moving. It lay curled in a corner, breathing rapidly, its glowing eyes dim with fear. A baby. The Shadow Maw had a baby. Alex approached slowly, making soft noises like she would with a frightened animal. The young Shadow Maw tried to back away, but it was clearly injured. One of its legs was bent at a wrong angle, probably hurt during the system failures. It's okay, Alex whispered. I'm not going to hurt you. The baby Shadow Maw studied her with the same intelligent eyes as its parent. After a moment, it stopped trying to escape and allowed Alex to come closer. She carefully examined its injured leg. It wasn't broken, just sprained. Back on Earth, she had volunteered at animal shelters. Scared. Hurt animals were scared. Hurt animals, regardless of what planet they came from. A sound echoed through the corridor behind her. Heavy footsteps moving with purpose. Alex looked around desperately for a hiding place. There was an air ventilation shaft that looked just large enough for her to crawl through. She scooped up the baby Shadow Maw, ignoring its weak struggles, and climbed into the shaft just as the footsteps reached the laboratory. Through the grating, She could see security teams sweeping the area with heavy weapons and scanning equipment. They were looking for the adult shadow maw, the dangerous predator that had escaped when the containment systems failed. But Alex was holding its child. In her arms, the baby shadow maw had stopped struggling. It seemed to understand that she was trying to help. Its breathing began to slow, and it curled against her warmth like any frightened animal seeking comfort. From somewhere deep in the Academy's corridors came a sound that made Alex's blood freeze. It was a howl of rage and loss carrying across the metal corridors like a voice crying out in the wilderness. The adult shadow maw wasn't hunting randomly. It was looking for its baby, and Alex was the only one who knew where to find it. Alex crawled through the ventilation shaft with the baby shadow maw pressed against her chest. Its breathing had steadied, but she could feel its tiny heart beating rapidly with fear. Behind her, the security teams continued their search with methodical precision, their heavy boots echoing through the corridors. She needed to find somewhere safe, somewhere she could think. The baby needed medical attention, and somewhere in the Academy its parent was tearing through walls and barriers looking for it. The ventilation shaft led to a maintenance area she had never seen before. Alex dropped down into a small room filled with pipes and electrical conduits. The baby shadow maw whimpered softly, a sound that was almost like a kitten mewing. "Shh," Alex whispered. "We'll figure this out." She examined the creature more carefully in the dim light. Its injured leg was swollen, but it didn't seem to be in severe pain. More concerning were the scratches across its flanks, probably from broken debris during the containment breach. Alex tore strips from her shirt and carefully bandaged the worst of the scratches. The baby shadow maw watched her with those impossibly intelligent eyes, as if it understood what she was trying to do. A vibration ran through the walls around her, followed by the sound of tearing metal. The adult shadow maw was close, probably only a few corridors away. Alex's hand shook as she finished the makeshift bandages. She needed help, but who would believe her? The security teams would probably shoot first and ask questions later. The instructors were focused on evacuation procedures, and none of them understood what she had figured out. The shadow maw wasn't a mindless monster. It was a parent. Alex activated her translator device and tried to access the Academy's communication system. Most of the networks were down, but she managed to connect to the emergency channel that Grix had been monitoring earlier. "This is Alex Chen," she whispered into the device. "I'm in maintenance section C7. I have important information about the containment breach." Static answered her for several seconds. Then Grix's mechanical voice crackled through. "Alex, you are supposed to be in the auditorium." "Where are you?" "Listen to me carefully," Alex said. "The shadow maw that escaped isn't hunting randomly. It has a baby, and the baby was injured during the system failures. The adult is looking for its offspring." More static. Then Professor Karn's voice joined the channel. "Student Chen, you will return to the safe area immediately. Do not interfere with security operations. Professor, you need to understand. I have the baby. It's hurt, but it's alive. If the security teams kill the adult, this baby will die too." The communication channel went silent for a long moment. When voices returned, Alex could hear urgent discussions in the background. "Alex," Grix's voice was careful. "You said you have the baby shadow maw with you?" "Yes, I found it in the laboratory areas. It's injured, but not dangerous. It's just scared. Shadow maws are apex predators," Professor Karn's voice cut in. "Even juveniles are extremely dangerous." Alex looked down at the small creature in her arms. It had fallen asleep, curled against her like a tired puppy. "This one isn't dangerous. It's just a baby that wants its parent." Another vibration shook the walls, stronger this time. Through the maintenance room's single small window, Alex could see emergency lights flashing in the corridor beyond. The adult shadow maw was getting closer. "The security teams are trying to corner it in Section B," Grix reported. "They have heavy weapons and energy barriers, but it keeps breaking through their containment. Because it's not trying to escape the Academy," Alex said. "It's trying to find its baby. Every time you block its path, you're just making it more desperate." The baby shadow maw stirred in her arms, making soft clicking sounds. Alex realized it was trying to communicate, probably calling for its parent. She gently stroked its shadowy fur and it quieted. "I have an idea," Alex said into the communicator. "But you're not going to like it." "What kind of idea?" Professor Karn asked suspiciously. "Let me try to reunite them. If the adult finds its baby safe and unharmed, maybe it will stop attacking everything in sight. The silence on the communication channel lasted so long that Alex thought she had lost the connection. Finally, Instructor Lyra's crystalline voice joined the conversation. Absolutely not. You are a student, not a trained xenobiologist. Shadow Maws have killed hundreds of beings. But they've never killed anyone who was protecting their young, Alex pointed out. Look at the research data. Every attack happened when the Shadow Maws were threatened or hunting for food. There's no record of them harming anyone who was caring for their offspring, because no one has ever been stupid enough to try, Lyra replied sharply. Another vibration, and this time Alex heard something else, a low, mournful howl that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The baby in her arms stirred and made a soft answering call. It can hear its parent, Alex said, and the parent can hear it. Through her window, she could see security teams moving through the corridor with military precision. Their energy weapons glowed with lethal power, and their armor made them look like walking tanks. They were prepared for war, not for a family reunion. The security teams are closing in, Grix reported. Whatever you're going to do, decide quickly. Alex looked down at the baby Shadow Maw. It was awake now, its glowing eyes fixed on her face. She saw intelligence there and trust and something else that was unmistakably hope. I'm going to try, she said into the communicator. If this goes wrong, tell my parents that I was trying to do something good. Alex, no. Grix's voice was urgent. Wait for backup. Wait for a proper plan. But Alex was already moving. She gathered the baby Shadow Maw carefully in her arms and headed for the maintenance room's emergency exit. The corridor beyond was dimly lit and filled with the sound of approaching danger. Somewhere in the darkness ahead, a desperate parent was searching for its child. And Alex was the only one who could help them find each other. She just hoped they would both survive the reunion. Alex moved through the darkened corridors with the baby Shadow Maw held securely against her chest. Every step brought her closer to the sounds of destruction ahead. Energy weapons discharged with crackling sounds, followed by the screech of tearing metal and frustrated roars that shook the walls. The baby in her arms grew more restless with each sound. It made soft chirping noises and tried to squirm toward the source of the commotion. Alex could feel its tiny body trembling with excitement and fear. I know, she whispered. That's your parent, isn't it? We're going to find them. She turned a corner and nearly walked straight into a security barrier. 3 Corvan guards crouched behind a portable energy shield, their weapons trained on something further down the corridor. Beyond them, Alex could see claw marks gouged deep into the metal walls and the twisted remains of security equipment. One of the guards noticed her approach and turned his weapon in her direction. Student, evacuate immediately. This area is not safe. Wait, Alex called out. I can help end this. The guard's eyes widened as he saw what she was carrying. You have captured a juvenile Shadow Maw? How is this possible? I didn't capture it. I rescued it. Alex stepped closer to the barrier. It was injured in the laboratory during the system failures. The adult isn't hunting randomly. It's looking for its baby. Another roar echoed through the corridor, closer this time. The baby Shadow Maw responded with a high-pitched cry that cut through the air like a blade. Immediately, the sounds of destruction stopped. In the sudden silence, Alex could hear heavy breathing and the soft pad of enormous paws moving across metal flooring. The adult Shadow Maw was listening. Let me through, Alex said to the guards. Let me try to reunite them. The lead guard made a gesture with 2 of his arms that Alex's translator identified as extreme negative response. Absolutely forbidden. Shadow Maws are Class 5 predators. Direct contact results in immediate death. Not if I'm protecting their young, Alex insisted. She looked past the guards toward the corridor where the adult was waiting. Please, this doesn't have to end in violence. The baby Shadow Maw made another cry, louder this time. An answering call came from the darkness ahead, filled with longing and desperate hope. Alex could hear the adult Shadow Maw moving closer to the security barrier. It knows its baby is here, she said. If you try to stop it from reaching us, it will tear through your barrier like paper. The guards exchanged rapid communications in their native language. Alex caught fragments through her translator. Words like unprecedented situation and no protocol for this. From her communicator came Grix's urgent voice. Alex, the main security force is moving to your position. They have authorization to use lethal force. How long? Alex asked. 3 minutes, maybe less. Alex looked at the guards blocking her path, then at the baby Shadow Maw in her arms. The small creature was trying to call out to its parent again, its tiny voice growing stronger and more insistent. "I'm sorry," she told the guards, "but I can't let them kill a parent who's just trying to protect their child." Before the guards could react, Alex ducked under their barrier and ran toward the darkness where the adult Shadow Maw was waiting. The corridor ahead was a disaster zone. Walls were torn open, ceiling panels hung loose, and the floor was littered with the remains of security equipment that had tried and failed to contain the desperate parent. Alex rounded a corner and found herself face to face with the most terrifying creature she had ever seen. The adult Shadow Maw was enormous, easily 3 meters long and built like a living nightmare. Its shadow-dark fur rippled with muscles that could tear through steel, and its eyes blazed with intelligence and fury. When it saw Alex, it rose to its full height and opened a mouth full of teeth that could bite through starship hulls. Alex should have been terrified. Every instinct should have told her to run, to scream, to do anything except stand still in the face of a perfect killing machine. Instead, she looked into those blazing eyes and saw something that made her heart break with understanding. Fear, loss, the desperate love of a parent who would destroy anything that threatened their child. "Hey there," she said softly, holding the baby Shadow Maw where its parent could see it. "I think this belongs to you." The adult Shadow Maw froze, its massive head tilted to one side as it processed what it was seeing. A human, a creature it could kill with a single swipe, was holding its offspring with gentle care. The baby made a joyful chirping sound and reached tiny paws toward its parent. The adult Shadow Maw took a step forward, then stopped, clearly confused by the situation. Alex slowly knelt down and placed the baby on the floor between them. "Go on," she whispered. "Go to your parent." The baby Shadow Maw limped forward on its injured leg, crying out with excitement. The adult dropped to the floor and gently nuzzled its offspring, making soft rumbling sounds that Alex felt in her bones. For a moment, the reunion was everything Alex had hoped for. Parent and child were together again, safe and unharmed. The desperate hunt was over. Then she heard the sound of heavy boots approaching at a run. The security forces had arrived, and they were coming with enough firepower to level half the academy. The adult Shadow Maw heard them too. Its head snapped up and the fury returned to its eyes. It placed itself protectively between its baby and the approaching threat, preparing for another battle. "No," Alex said firmly. She stood up and moved to stand beside the adult Shadow Maw. "No more fighting." The first security team rounded the corner with weapons charged and ready. When they saw Alex standing next to the massive predator, their formation faltered. "Student Chen," the team leader's voice was amplified through his combat armor, "move away from the creature immediately." "His name is Shadow," Alex said, surprising herself with the words. She looked up at the adult Shadow Maw. "And he's not a creature. He's a father who was trying to save his child." The baby Shadow Maw chirped and moved closer to Alex's legs, clearly recognizing her as the one who had helped it. The adult Shadow Maw looked down at its offspring, then at Alex, and something shifted in its glowing eyes. "Stand down your weapons," Alex called to the security team. "He won't attack as long as his baby is safe." "We have our orders," the team leader replied. "All escaped specimens must be contained or eliminated." The adult Shadow Maw heard the hostile tone and began to growl, a sound that made the metal walls vibrate. But instead of preparing to attack, it gently picked up its baby in its massive jaws and moved to stand behind Alex. Alex realized what was happening. The Shadow Maw was using her as a shield, not because it was afraid, but because it recognized that she was the one thing standing between its child and danger. "Look at this," she said to the security team. "It's protecting its baby by trusting me." When has a Shadow Maw ever trusted anyone? Through her communicator, she heard Professor Karn's voice. "Security team, hold your position. Do not fire unless directly threatened." "But Professor," the team leader protested. The creature is exhibiting unprecedented behavior," Karn interrupted. Student Chen may have discovered something significant about Shadow Maw psychology. More footsteps echoed through the corridor as additional personnel arrived. Alex could see Instructor Lyra's crystalline form approaching, along with several other academy officials. Their faces showed a mixture of fear and fascination as they witnessed the impossible scene. The baby Shadow Maw made a soft mewing sound and tried to climb up Alex's leg with its tiny claws. She gently picked it up, mindful of its injured leg, and cradled it against her chest. The adult Shadow Maw watched every movement but made no threatening gestures. How is this possible? Lyra whispered. Shadow maws are supposed to be mindless killing machines. They're not mindless, Alex replied. They're just misunderstood. Everything they do is about protecting their families. She looked up at the adult Shadow Maw, who was studying the approaching officials with wary intelligence. The research data was wrong because nobody ever tried to understand their perspective. You saw them as monsters, so they acted like monsters, but they're really just parents trying to protect their children. Professor Karn approached slowly, his forearms spread in a non-threatening gesture. The juvenile appears to be injured. Sprained leg and some scratches from the containment breach, Alex reported. Nothing life-threatening, but it needs proper medical attention. And the adult will allow medical treatment? Alex looked up at the massive Shadow Maw. Its eyes met hers and she saw trust there, fragile but real. If I'm there to help, yes. I think it will. The baby made another soft sound and nuzzled against Alex's neck. She could feel its rapid heartbeat beginning to slow as it realized the immediate danger had passed. This changes everything, Lyra said softly. If Shadow Maws are capable of trust, if they can form bonds with other species, then maybe they're not the monsters we thought they were, Alex finished. Maybe they're just another intelligent species that we never bothered to communicate with. The adult Shadow Maw made a low rumbling sound that seemed almost like purring. It gently touched its massive head to Alex's shoulder, careful not to knock her over with its size. I think he's saying thank you, Alex said, feeling tears start to form in her eyes. He's thanking me for taking care of his baby. From somewhere in the distance came the sound of transport ships arriving. The evacuation was still underway, and soon the academy would be empty except for essential personnel and repair crews. What happens to them now? Alex asked. Professor Karn considered the question carefully. Normally, escaped specimens would be terminated or returned to maximum security containment. But this situation is far from normal. The adult Shadow Maw seemed to understand the conversation. It moved closer to Alex and made a soft questioning sound, as if asking what would happen to its child. They go home, Alex said firmly. They've been through enough. They deserve to go home. As if in response to her words, both parent and child made harmonious sounds together, a family song that echoed through the damaged corridors and seemed to speak of hope for the future. 6 months later, Alex stood in the same corridor where she had first encountered the adult Shadow Maw, but everything had changed. The damaged walls had been repaired and reinforced, but more importantly, the entire section had been converted from a containment facility into something revolutionary, a communication center for interspecies understanding. Through the large viewing windows, she could see 3 young Shadow Maws playing in a specially designed habitat. They tumbled over each other like oversized kittens, their shadow-dark fur rippling with joy. One of them, slightly smaller than the others with a barely noticeable limp, paused in its play to look through the window at Alex. "Hello, little one," Alex said softly, pressing her hand against the transparent barrier. The young Shadow Maw Alex had rescued pressed its paw against the glass from the other side, a gesture they had developed over months of interaction. Its parent appeared from deeper in the habitat, moving with the fluid grace that had once terrified the galaxy's greatest military forces. The adult Shadow Maw, whom Alex still called Shadow, approached the window and made a low rumbling sound that her new translation device identified as a greeting. The technology was still experimental, based on months of patient observation and communication attempts, but it was beginning to work. "Good morning to you too," Alex replied. Behind her, footsteps approached. She turned to see Grix walking down the corridor with a tablet in 2 of his hands, and a steaming cup of something that smelled like cinnamon in a third. "The transport from Earth arrives today," he reported. "Your replacement will be here in 4 hours." Alex felt a pang of sadness mixed with excitement. Her exchange program was officially ending, but she was returning to Earth as more than just a student. She was now humanity's first official ambassador to the TriStar Academy's new Interspecies Understanding Initiative. "Any word from the Rim worlds?" she asked. Grix manipulated his tablet with practiced efficiency. 3 more Shadow Maw families have agreed to participate in the communication project. They're curious about the humans who showed kindness to Shadow's offspring. Through the habitat window, Alex watched the 3 young Shadow Maws wrestling with a toy that had been designed by Corvin engineers, modified by Raylani energy shapers, and tactically tested by Nithek consultants. It was a perfect example of the cooperation that had emerged from the crisis 6 months ago. Professor Karn appeared at the other end of the corridor, moving with the methodical precision that Alex had learned to associate with important announcements. "Student Chen," he said, though his tone was warmer than it had been during her first days at the academy. "The Council of 3 Species has completed their review of your proposal." Alex's heart began to beat faster. For months, she had been working on a comprehensive plan to establish communication protocols with other species that had been classified as dangerous predators. It was ambitious, risky, and completely unprecedented, and they have approved the creation of the Human-Led Predator Communication Initiative, Karn announced. "You will return to Earth to establish training programs for human ambassadors who can work with species that other races find too dangerous to approach." Alex felt her knees go weak with relief and excitement. Really? They actually said yes? Instructor Lyra materialized from the crystalline walls with the disconcerting teleportation ability that still made Alex jump. "The evidence is undeniable. Humans possess a unique combination of empathy, adaptability, and protective instincts that allows them to communicate with species that we cannot safely approach. Plus, you're crazy enough to hug baby predators," Grix added, with what Alex had learned was Corvin humor. Through the habitat window, Shadow moved closer to the barrier. The massive shadow maw had grown sleeker and healthier during its months in the improved facilities, but its eyes still held the same intelligence that had first captured Alex's attention. "I'm going to miss them," Alex said. "You'll be back," Lyra assured her. "This is only the beginning. The galaxy has hundreds of species that have been classified as too dangerous for contact. If humans can bridge that gap, we might discover that the universe is full of friends we just haven't met yet," Alex finished. Shadow made a complex series of sounds that the translation device struggled to process. After a moment, it provided an approximate meaning. "The small safe human goes to teach others the way of understanding. This is good. Shadow's cubs will remember the kindness." Alex felt tears forming in her eyes. The translation was rough, but the meaning was clear. Shadow understood that she was leaving, and it approved of her mission. One of the young shadow maws, the one Alex had rescued, approached the window and made a sound that needed no translation. It was the same joyful chirp it had made as a baby when it saw its parent for the first time. "I'll remember you too," Alex whispered. Later that day, Alex stood in the Academy's main docking bay with a small bag containing everything she owned. The transport ship that would take her back to Earth gleamed in the artificial sunlight, but she found herself reluctant to board. Students from all 3 species had gathered to see her off. It was unprecedented for a single exchange student to receive such attention, but then again, Alex's entire time at the Academy had been unprecedented. Vera, the Rilani student from her first physics class, floated forward with a small crystal in her hands. "This contains recordings of energy patterns from our home system. Perhaps humans would find them interesting." Tix, the Nethek who had first warned Alex about the containment breach, presented her with a complex geometric object. "Tactical puzzles from our world, to keep your mind sharp for the challenges ahead." Grix was last, holding a device that looked like a cross between a tablet and a toolbox. "Corvin engineering principles adapted for human hands. You will need good tools for building bridges between species." Alex accepted each gift with gratitude, but her eyes kept drifting back to the viewing portal that showed the communication center. Through the transparent walls, she could see the Shadow Maw family playing together in their habitat. "They changed everything, didn't they?" she said to Professor Karn, who had come to officially transfer her academic records. "No," Karn replied. "You changed everything. You saw what we could not see, understood what we could not understand. The Shadow Maws were simply the beginning." As Alex boarded the transport, she thought about the future that was opening up before humanity. There were species in the galaxy that had been written off as monsters, planets that were considered too dangerous to visit, entire regions of space that were marked as no-contact zones. But if a scared human student could make friends with a Shadow Maw family, what other impossible connections might be possible? Through the transport's viewport, Alex watched the TriStar Academy grow smaller as they departed. But she wasn't really leaving. She was beginning the next phase of a journey that had started when she'd looked into a pair of glowing eyes and seen not a monster, but a desperate parent. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders and terrors in equal measure. But Alex had learned something that would change everything. Sometimes the most terrifying creatures were just families looking for someone who understood them. And humans, it turned out, were very good at understanding families. The transport jumped to hyperspace, carrying Alex toward Earth and toward a future where the galaxy's most dangerous predators might become its most unlikely friends. Behind her, in the communications center of the TriStar Academy, a family of shadow moths looked up at the stars and made sounds that meant, in any language, "Thank you for showing us that we are not alone."